I'm going to say, because it's almost 10 after, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that we really want this whole like buying the building was accomplished by a small number of people, because that's how you have to do things, right? You can't have 500 people decide everything. But now we're at the point where we really want to get everyone in the whole community involved, and that's one thing. And so we really are interested in hearing what you think. And I want to ask you today, I'm recording this session and we'll have it for other people to watch who can't be here. But I want to ask you to put questions and comments into the chat, and we will answer them later, and we will save them as part of the video too, so that people can hear what you think. So if we're talking about something, you have a thought, please do go ahead and make a chat, say something in the chat, and we will collect that, okay? And also, you can put your email in the chat if you want us to, if there's a particular thing you want us to follow up on, you can put your email and we will get back to you, okay? So we're calling this meeting today a dream come true, because this has been an aspiration for EBS for a long, long time. And here we are. And so it's a moment in the middle of all the craziness that we've been dealing with to have something happy and forward-looking and positive, to do together. And so I just wanted to invite everyone to celebrate it with us. Today, we're going to hear from 3 people. Besides me, we're going to hear from Mike Mueller, who's our vice president of the board, and from Steve Wilkinson, who is another board member and also been very, very active in not only leading meditation for a long time now with newcomers in the Wednesday night drop-in mindfulness group, but also on Facebook. Both Mike and Steve have been doing the heavy lifting on the Facebook live presentations. So they're very in touch with where EBS is at right now. And then I'm going to talk about the building and potential plans for its future. So I will give it to you, Mike. You can start sharing your screen and do your thing if you want to.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. So my name is Mike Mueller. For those of you that don't know me, most of you do, but a few of you probably may not. As Cheryl said, I'm vice president of the board and been on the board, I don't even remember, Cheryl, 2017 maybe? I can't remember what year exactly I joined. I'm going to share my screen here. Give me just a moment. And hopefully everyone sees the slide. Is that right? Yesterday, today, and tomorrow? Kind of give me a thumbs up if you do, so I know. Okay, great. So this meeting is a dream come true. This moment is a dream come true, as Cheryl has said. And we thought we would just spend a few minutes talking a little bit about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So my part of this is yesterday. I promise this is not a big long deck. We're not going to bore you with a bunch of slides. I just want to have a couple little resource slides here to make sure that I'm not missing anything, and also visually for you to see it as well as hear my voice at the same time could be a little bit helpful. But I promise it's not some big long PowerPoint. I know that this is the weekend and we don't want to be bored with things. I'm trying to, there we go. How do we get here? All right, so just very quickly, what I wanted to do is just lay out a little bit of the history of EBS, a very little bit. And by the way, I'm so honored that Anna Cox is on this, because Anna, you and I have never met face to face, but we've exchanged emails, and you are so incredibly important to the founding of EBS and why we're here today. I just want to acknowledge that for those of you that don't know Anna. She is one of the visionaries that helped this happen. I'm going to try and summarize as best I can based on my understanding of the history, but by all means, Anna, Judith, or anybody else that's been around EBS for much longer than I have, please feel free to chime in. I think this can be more of a conversation than me just talking about this. But back in the 1980s, there were various Buddhist traditions in the central Arkansas Little Rock area that were all practicing sort of in different locations. And I don't remember what year it was, except it was in the 80s, but it was, they decided to kind of band together and to say, hey, let's pool our resources and let's have one location, one place that that we can use for each of these various Buddhist lineage groups to practice together. And each group remains autonomous and practices in their own way with their own teacher, officially designated teacher, but still have the same building. So it wasn't until 1990 that EBS of Little Rock, Ecumenical Buddhist Society of Little Rock, was officially a nonprofit. And that's thanks, again, mainly to people like Anna and Charles Hicks, who has kind of weaved in and out of participating in EBS over the years, but he's always there for us, offering advice and guidance. I wish Charles could be on here today. Jay McDaniel was another one. I mean, Judith, you're here. There's so many of you who, from the early days, were a part of this early group that really helped establish EBS. And by the way, one thing I want to say here, it's not one of my bullet points, but those of you that don't know this, as an ecumenical Buddhist group, we are very special in the United States. There's not many of us out there. Most Buddhist centers are very specific to a lineage. Like one of the Buddhist centers I participate in is the Kansas Zen Center in Lawrence, Kansas, which is a Kwanum Zen tradition only. So the idea that there is an ecumenical Buddhist group like ours here makes us very, very special and makes, I know me, and makes all of us very proud in the fact that we're inclusive and we don't sort of just honor and want to follow one particular Buddhist lineage, but we respect all the lineages, all the different branches of Buddhism, and following a Buddhist path, even in a secular way, really. And that is part of our overall mission here at EBS. In 1995, jumping to the third bullet point here, in 1995, we received a wonderful gift, thanks to a gentleman by the name of Kurt Wilhelm, who bequeathed his home to EBS. Kurt was a psychotherapist who participated, I believe, in Anna's group and in one of the Tibetan Buddhist groups, and passed away at too young of an age, and left his home, hoping that this home in the Quapaw Quarter would be used for our organization. But if I understand the history correctly, because of Quapaw Quarter regulations and zoning requirements, we could not get that kind of permission to have EBS located at the home. So instead, the home was sold and the money was banked in the hopes that at some point in the future, we would be able to use that lump sum for a down payment to sustain a permanent home for EBS. So over the last several years, decade plus, right, we have been doing exactly that, renting the location here. Starting in 2013, we were first over there, of course, on Chester. But in 2013, we rented the current building at 1516 West 3rd, and we've been renting it since then. In 2018, I was on the board at this point. We developed a strategic plan. So this is the last thing I'll share via the PowerPoint. But I pulled this right out of the 10-year strategic plan that we created back in 2018, because I thought it so succinctly captures the vision that the board at that time and the other stakeholders, it wasn't just the board, but other stakeholders had envisioned for EBS down the road. It's a 10-year vision. So I'll just read it to you, and you can follow along. So imagine this, just if you want to even close your eyes and listen to my voice and see this happening. We are getting here. We are moving in this direction already. In 10 years, when you walk into the Ecumenical Buddhist Society, you'll be greeted by a volunteer who intentionally welcomes newcomers and members. The doors are always open. Of course, we weren't planning on COVID. The primary function of EBS is as a Buddha Dharma center, a faith center in which children, families, individuals, and people of all cultural, gender, and socioeconomic backgrounds can find meditation instruction, chanting, Dharma, and social events. There is regularly occurring large group activity in which many members participate and then split off into smaller interest-based groups for further study and practice. EBS also offers ceremonies and rituals for major life events, along with a hospice care team and a columbarium. EBS doors are open to community members for activities like 12-step and yoga practices. This rich, bustling faith center will be financially self-sufficient. Newcomers and members learn from teachers, each other, and receive instruction at EBS retreats. EBS leadership supports students to become empowered in whatever way their lineage recognizes and encourages those empowered to teach at EBS and support EBS members and newcomers. EBS encourages practice groups to cultivate an ongoing relationship with retreat masters who come to Little Rock. Thus, the Faith Center is self-sufficient in Dharma. Here comes the building part. When you come to EBS, you'll notice gardens outside and space for walking meditation. The building is accessible to all with available parking and ramps for all physical abilities. As you move into the building, you'll find a beautiful, light-filled, inviting, energy-efficient green space that is a refuge for all. There's enough room for all activities, and the space is effectively used for many different kinds of activities and groups. There's a large, real kitchen and an adequate number of bathrooms. And I'll pause right there. It goes on to talk about other elements of our vision at that time. But I wanted you to see that because, again, this was written in 2018, now 3 years ago. And we spent a lot of time, Cheryl and some of you others on this call, sort of working with our facilitator to develop this sort of visualization, this mission of what we want to see eventually down the road. And I think this has been guiding us these last several years in trying to get to the point of making a decision for purchasing the building and what that building would look like. So I just I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If I can figure out where the button is. Here it is. Yeah, so I just think it's an amazing journey that we've been on up to this point. And I want to again thank those visionaries who were a part of those early days and continue to be even currently to kind of get us to this point where we could kind of pull the trigger on this kind of a big decision. So I'm going to turn it over now to Steve, who I think wants to talk a little bit about the now, and then eventually with Cheryl, we'll talk about kind of where we go into the future.
Hi guys, Steve.
So I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to share this. Steve has a couple things he wants to show.
Yeah, so I'm the new kid on the block. I've only been here maybe about 3 years. And when I came, this vision that EBS had of their future was rolling forward. And, you know, it seemed like the thing was really happening. When I started, I attended a introduction to meditation with Mick on Wednesday nights, and we would have anywhere from 2 people to 27 people show up. And it was like a very thriving, to me, kind of place. And then March of 2020, COVID hit. And it was the tough decision to shut the building down. And I think we were all wondering, you know, if you shut the building down, are you shutting EBS down? How do you keep the groups running? How do you keep the community involved? And it was a bit of a struggle there at first. And, you know, someone suggested we might try Zoom with some of our practice groups. And that kind of got rolling. And all of us that were not Zoom masters before, we are now, or try to be at least. I can see Paul smiling, and we know the challenges that that has. And so that kept the practice groups alive, those Zoom meetings. But then the next question is, you know, we would always have these silent meditations for the community. And it would be, you know, at lunchtime and on Sundays and such, people would come in, sit down, and we would just sit and meditate together. And we wanted to keep that up too. So we were thinking, well, maybe we can do Facebook Live for a little bit and offer that to folks, you know, to continue to be part of EBS, because EBS always struck me as being a community resource for all the folks out there that are looking for help and a place to, you know, find some support. And so what happened is we had a few volunteers kind of, you know, say, well, I'll Facebook Live and I'll try this for a little bit. And we thought, well, that's great. We keep that going. And we started that in March, the second or third week of March, I think. And it was going pretty good, we thought. We weren't sure. And then we decided to go back and look at the actual numbers to see if anyone was actually benefiting from this. And so, Mike, if you could give me the first slide. What we're looking at is the number of views that we had in 2020. And when we turn back and look at the actual data, we were amazed, we were surprised. You can tell in March we got started, in April the word got out, and then you look at 2020 as a whole. This is just Facebook Live views. Over 20,000 views happened with Facebook Live, and we were all surprised and stunned. I mean, you know, we didn't know what to say, what to do. What's interesting is that we have the groups that do the Zoom meetings, and they each of them have their lineage that they practice. And then you have Facebook Live, which is that kind of outreach to the community. And we're not just sitting and being silent during that time with Facebook Live, but if you watched it, what you're actually seeing, I think, is about 5 or 6 people sharing their journey in meditation with folks. And people relate to that a lot. Mike, if you could give us the next screen. And so, you know, we had 20,000 views of all of 2020, right? Now we go into 2021 and we're looking at January through June. So far, we've had over 700 views there. What that tells us is that, you know, we kind of expected initially that this would be something of help. I don't think we anticipated it'd be something that looks like it has an ongoing life, something that can benefit other people. We get people participating from around the state and from around the country. And this outreach is so much greater than what we originally thought it might be. And Mike, if you can go to the last slide. And so now we're tracking like all the data. And if you look at everything, not just the views, but the emojis, the comments, how many people have been reached and engaged, we have 36,769 interactions in the first 6 months of this year. That's crazy. That's just absolutely crazy. And Mike, if you could go back to all of us looking at each other. And I think this goes to show, you know, the flexibility of EBS in the face of what looked like we were shutting the doors, you know, literally, what does that mean? And we've turned something that was a real challenge into something that looks like a real opportunity. And as that is all happening, we also find ourselves thinking that, you know, at one point this year, we thought we were going to open the doors back up in August, right? It looked good. Then the next wave is now coming through, and it's been an ongoing challenge for us. In the midst of this challenge, Cheryl has had it in her head that she wants to buy a building, right? And so we get to be gifted with the purchase of a building and all the possibilities that that provides, in addition to trying to figure out how best to utilize the Zoom and the Facebook Live tools. That's totally new to all of us, and how to make the best use of that to continue to reach out. And then what are we going to look like as we reopen again? And how are we going to, you know, do the right thing by, you know, purchasing the building and implementing the visions that go with that? And that kind of brings us to, you know, this is some of our challenges that we look at and face today. So that's me.
Myself. Thank you so much, Steve and Mike, both of you. I want to reiterate, first of all, I want to apologize to people who've had trouble getting in. I apologize. That's all I can say. Secondly, please do put things in chat. We are recording this, and also we'll save the chat and get to your questions at the end, but please do put comments, questions. We want to know, we want to open up and hear what you think about all this. So let me say, someone asked already where we stand. Ruth asked where we stand with the purchase process. And we haven't closed yet. We expect to close the sale within the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Our offer has been accepted. We have a bank working on a loan for us, which they've made an offer to a loan offer to us, which we've accepted. It's being appraised right now, and the appraisal has to line up with the numbers in the loan. But because of the generosity of Kurt Wilhelm and the careful management of those resources over the years, EBS had about $130,000 in the bank. And buying the building is going to cost us the $70,000 down payment, but that's going to leave some money in the bank. And it's going to reduce our monthly cost by about $700 because the mortgage payment is that much lower than the rent. The other reason that we moved this year instead of waiting is that the owner of the building is in his 80s. And we wanted, his father built this building, and he loves this building. And we really wanted him to sell it to us. And we knew that we'd have a better chance convincing him than his heirs, probably. And so we have done that. And he was an architect. His father was an architect. And I'm going to, maybe one of you, maybe Mike, you can do this while I'm talking, because I, as the host, I'm afraid to leave the meeting, but I wanted to put in the chat the link to the YouTube video about the building. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because the Little Rock Historical Society came in here one time a few years ago, and they talked about the whole history of this particular building, which is a registered historic structure built in 1960. And so that's a great video to watch sometime if you want to know about it. And the owner, his name is Dan Stowers, and it was his father who built the building, and they ran an architectural practice here for forever until Dan retired. They built schools and hospitals in the Little Rock area. We picked this building because of it's such a visible location. And actually, it has worked to grow EBS so much because we're right here on 3rd Street. And really, when we talk about we had a strategic plan to grow, the fact is we were caught in growth almost inescapably, and we've had to stretch ourselves to keep up because the interest and the need for a place to go and deal with your stress and deal with your confusion and deal with your spiritual growth is so great here and has been so great, and so much more so since the pandemic. But anyway, it's an old building, but it's very well built. We know because we've lived in it all these years. It needs, we had it inspected before we made the offer. We looked at things, and it needs less work than we feared it would need. For example, we know that it has still got the original heating and air conditioning system, which is, so that's from 1960, but turns out that we can just replace a few parts, and that system should keep going for a long, long time. So we feared that we were going to have to pour a fortune into this building, and it turns out we won't. Hopefully, fingers crossed, okay? The other thing is that it's a very flexible space. It can be used, it is used for yoga classes, and we've had 65 people in this room with a teacher for a retreat, and kids programs, and it just works for so many different uses that it's just perfect. And we looked at other buildings. They were usually had all kinds of walls chopping them up inside that you would have to tear down to make a big open space like this. Plus we have these north-facing wall of windows here, the river over there. We can see Dillard's, we can see the Amtrak station, we can see trees, you know, it's just perfect. It so expresses our mission and our practices. It's so supportive of our practices. So I have some really fun visual aids. Well, one that I want to show you. Before the board made the decision to buy this building, though, we knew that it has a couple of issues we wanted to make sure we could fix. One of them is there's only 2 bathrooms, and if you have 65 people, that gets squishy. And the other thing is that there's sound mitigation problems. So if you try to do two things at once in here, it really doesn't work very well. And those kind of problems we knew we were going to have to solve somehow. So we have, I guess, Mike, you can pull the slides up now. We have a member who's an architect. So before we talk to the landlord, who's also an architect, we worked with John Lai is his name, and John did a sketch for us of what we could do. So I want John's, well, you'll give me whatever you got. There, keep going. We'll come back there. This is, oh, there you go. Let's start, just to stay there. Look at that. What you're looking at here is a rendition. Mick Wiggins did the photoshopping, so we blame him for that. And it's, John designed a plan where in the basement here, which is currently really not used for anything, we can put in 2 new bathrooms and expand the, under the carport, build about 500 square feet of practice space with a glass wall. So it's lit, natural light, and a row of planters there. That's what you're looking at. And I just want to say, this is a very rough idea. This is not a finished plan by any means, but we did take this plan to a contractor, and they told us how much it would cost to do, roughly speaking, again, not nailed down, but in the ballpark of $60,000 to $65,000. And you'll remember that we have some money left over in our savings. We will have to do a capital campaign to be able to afford this improvement. There's no hurry. We can pause, buy the building, take a deep breath, sit here for a while and consider as a community whether this is what we want to do or something else. So it gives us an opportunity to sort of collectively work on what do we want and how do we want to use the space. You'll notice the little stairs to the right of the building there going up into the grass. Mike, would you show me the one with the other air overhead one? Go back a couple, I guess. There's a, again, John, yeah, just do one more up one more, there you go. This is an aerial view of the building, and it's totally confusing. I can understand if you're confused. What you're looking at here, well, the one with all the little white lines, there's our building is on the left side of your screen. And yes, thank you. And the little blank square next to it is room for another building someday in the lot next door. We also bought the lot next door, by the way. In the front of that other building is disability parking spaces, because we do want to be ADA compliant and we want to help people with mobility questions. So you could park there and wheel across the front of the building and in our front door. And in the back of that lot, we can add more parking spaces. Maybe not as much as you see in this particular drawing, because we also want to have a garden. So this again is a really rough sketch. It's not finished, but it's just gives you a vision of what could be done here down the road. And the answer, I just saw the question flash by from John. No, from the edge of that second building to the street is someone else's property. So the line of trees down, if you're ever here, walk outside and look at it. The line of trees down the middle of that vacant lot next door is the property line. And, but you know, so maybe that's all I need to say. Well, I imagine, I won't say I imagine that, like I said, we'll close the sale and then we'll stop and rest and think about ourselves as a community. We need to reopen. We need to get back together in person and talk about how we want to use the space and what we want to do. And then we can sort of draw a collective, maybe there's teams of people who want to work on the vision for it. What's the garden going to look like? what else do we need to think about? So I'm going to stop talking now. I guess I'll look at the chat and see if there are questions that we need to answer. Let's see. Why don't you go ahead if you have a question or a comment, please just, you know how to use the raise your hand little thing reaction? And I'll call on you, or you can just start talking and we'll hear you. Unmute yourself. We're in the questions and answers period, by the way. Here we go. Come on. Your turn. I should have said tag, you're it. Your turn to talk, everybody.
Cheryl, I will talk.
Yes, thank you, Judy.
I've been sitting here listening to this and fighting back tears because that's an understatement to say that it's a dream come true. I haven't been around quite since the beginning. I came early on, but this is just amazing and wonderful. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Judith. I mean, Judith was early enough that her name is on the IRS application for nonprofit status.
Okay.
That's how early she was there. So, and yeah. Who else? Anything else? Somebody this morning, we were talking to Dr. Lai, who's our teacher from North Carolina, and he was joking that we could, if we opened a spa in the next building next door, we could get people to come in for a massage, and then we could tip them over to this side of the building and work with their minds. He said, whatever gets them in the door. But I don't think we have to do that. People are coming to us constantly. Oh my goodness, since this pandemic, we've had so many people saying, help me, I'm so stressed out. What do I do? What do I do? And that we have people that are friendly and wonderful and disciplined and meditators that can help people is just amazing. Anyway. Questions, comments? Let me look at the chat.
Or any other, the other board members who might want to chime in, and if there's something that Cheryl and Steve and I missed, you want to reiterate, please do.
Burke is asking on the chat about reopening for vaccinated people. And we are, I mean, the board struggles with this every single time we meet, every time we talk, because and let me say this, that we did when we reopened briefly, and we did have what we were calling a hybrid model where people who needed to stay home but still wanted to participate could do that. And I'm sure that we'll continue to do that once we do fully reopen. But in the, just because of the numbers that are happening now and the breakthrough infections and the fact that vaccinated people can still spread the virus, we have just made the decision to stay closed for now, but we're looking at it every week by week. Okay, Sheila?
I'm sorry, can I just chime in real quick, Cheryl, on that?
Yes, sure.
I just want to say one more thing, at least in my consideration, I think for others on the board too, part of that decision making about staying closed at this point was based on the feeling that we don't want to divide our Sangha, and kind of create these lines between vaccinated and unvaccinated, those who are comfortable coming in and those who aren't, that we want to remain, as EBS has always been, very inclusive, very open to everyone. And by sort of kind of creating these barriers of saying, well, if you're vaccinated, come, and if you're not, stay away, or something, or some version of that, that it just started to feel like it was going to create an uncomfortableness among members in the Sangha who either felt welcomed or not welcomed. And it just felt better to pull back and just say, let's all just step back and stay virtual for a while longer. We'll get through this. next wave, and then when it's safe for everyone, we'll get back in person.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, Sheila?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to reiterate what Judith said. I have not been around as long, but I was present and a big part of the move from our previous place to this building. And it just such joy that we have had the core group of people who do so much work behind the scenes to keep this place what it is so meaningful. And so I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And you totally have my trust in going forward in planning. I know it's sometimes difficult because I know I did a very small stint on the board at one point, and you often feel like you're making these decisions in a vacuum and that you aren't getting feedback nor real help from the people who actually use the building. And so it's very important, I think, ongoing for all of us to try to give the board and the people who are making these difficult decisions the support that they need to keep us healthy and thriving and welcoming to the people that need us to be in this community and to be a sort of safe haven in a community that's not always welcoming to people who are not like them. So thank you all so much. I just can't say enough about how much work I know has gone into this so far and will continue to have to be done. So thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Thanks so much. To that point, I just want to say that owning the building is not just owning the building. Owning the building, let me finish that sentence. Owning the building is going to require more work than being renters. It just is, you know, we just had to pay the rent on time and an insurance policy. Now we have to take care of things if they break and stuff. So there will be a place for anybody who wants to get involved to please get involved. But it's not just the building, it's the fact that EBS is growing. And we have all these people like today, look at this today. Why is the link goofy for getting into this meeting? Because you have 3 people, because Mike is doing 17 other things and you're leaning too hard on a small number of people who are trying to keep everything working perfectly. And sometimes mistakes happen or whatever. So there's different, glitches. So there will be, as we grow, we are growing. There's more people knocking on the door, even though the building's closed, and we need to respond to them. So if you want to figure out how to help, let us know. Join in, speak up. And I want to back up and say, everything that happens at EBS right now is done by volunteers. So we have an incredible richness of people contributing their time and energy to the support of EBS in one way or another, leading programs, leading practices, taking care of the plants, whatever, all of it. So we're all in this together. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm seeing all these people. Okay. Anything else? We have about 10 minutes left. Anna, do you feel like saying anything? You're muted. You have to unmute, yeah.
Technologically smart.
Oh, you did it. Good job. Thank you.
First of all, I am joining the crew, all of you who are saying thank yous, because for me, this is all thank you, thank you, thank you for each and every one of you for 20, 30 years, for picking up your piece of the Dharma puzzle and walking your path. And there is no way you can ever know my gratefulness for all that you have done. It is my dream come true, and the dream of those back in the early 80s that brought those original teachers. And I remember a moment in the parking lot when Charles Hicks said to me, let's have a building for everybody.
Mhm.
And that was the moment that it began. And the very first board meeting that we met, the very first decision was that the ground that would be the foundation for all of us in all the decisions we made would be based in solid Dharma principles for ourselves and for our practices and for the board. No matter what question arose, the answer would come from Dharma principles. And when we would be confused,
Mhm.
we would meditate, 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 and let the answer arise from the Dharma. And so whether it's our messy technological karma or how we're going to go forward, or how many people show up, or what we're doing, the Dharma will bring us the pathway that unfolds for the benefit of everyone. And obviously, there is no way any of us that can look at the gifts that we have been given in this community and have any doubt whatsoever that the Buddha Dharma has made a mistake with us. And you are the ones that have lived these Dharma energies for the benefit of everybody. These statistics say that your gifts have gone all over the world to benefit others. There have been no mistakes. Who you are as bodhisattvas is amazing. You have done it. And to me, it is my dream beyond all dreams come true. There are no mistakes, and thank you. So just keep going.
Keep going. Thank you, Anna. I really love that. And you know, we got a good start, and a lot of along the way, people have said to me, "Oh, you're doing so much. It's so great." And I want to say I feel so much like a surfer rather than a person who's doing anything. It's like the need, the energy, the strength, the richness. It's all already here. It's already happening. And we are basically responding to it. And it's not easy all the time, but it's such a joy. I don't know what else we could do, that would be this wonderful. So hopefully we can open really soon and have the biggest party in our history. Dance music, I don't know, whatever you can imagine, kids running around underfoot, I just think the coolest thing as soon as we can do that. But I don't know when that will be, and we'll have to keep you posted. I promise to keep you posted. Mike is going to create a page on the website. Mike, by the way, does everything. Let me just say, he does everything. So
I screw a few things up in between every now and then too.
no, but never mind, we forget that. But anyway, he's going to make a web page on our website about the building project. It'll have a link to this video that we're talking about. It'll have a link to, it'll have progress reports. When we close, I'll let you know. We'll let you know. And really, I mean it, that we own this building now. You own this building now. The people who use it own the building. Don't walk through the door and say, oh, look at these people, they're letting me come in their building. Walk through the door and say, my Dharma center, my practice center, and whatever you see, if you think, oh, we ought to have this or that, make it so. Or, that's what it's about now from here going forward. So I think it's time to close. I'm not sure. Any last comments? Is there somebody who really wants to speak and hasn't had a chance? No. Okay, well, I want to add my thank yous to Judith and Charles and Anna and all the nameless people who ever went to a board meeting and cleaned a toilet and paid their dues or led a practice or all the things that added up to this moment, because it's an amazing display of generosity. So everybody, as Burke is saying, be well and be happy. Please stay safe. We will be together again here as soon as we can. And in the meantime, as Anna says, just keep doing what we're doing, huh? So thank you. I know nobody wants, well, that's the end of the formal program. If you want to linger and chat, I'm happy to do that. And I'm going to stop the recording here.